Back in Sherwood Forest Country Park today. It's a lovely, very mild February morning, and I'm after a needle in a haystack today. Figuratively speaking, of course. What I'm really after is a small wingless female moth tucked away in the crevices of oak bark. This is not going to be easy. I'm looking to find female spring usher. It's a female moth that I've not seen before, and Sherwood Forest Country Park offers probably the best place in the county to track one down. Tracking one down is a problem. It's extremely time consuming, laborious, and in both cases not worthwhile. But got to put yourself out of it, haven't you? If I want to see one, I've got to look for one, put the effort in, and ultimately find one. Well, this is the terrain and bit of Sherwood Forest Country Park I've chosen to look in. This is the section that runs alongside the Swinecote Road coming out of Edwinstowe towards Budby. Initially, all the oaks that I'm going to check are in the younger age range. There's no ancients until I get further up, over yonder up there. Providing I get that far. Might have found everything I wanted to find by then. I don't think so somehow. The main species that we can hope for are spring usher, as I've already mentioned, pale brindled beauty, whose females are actually the largest of what I'm looking for. Dotted border females are another one. It's another wingless species. And small brindled beauty. That would be a prize find. So what are these things actually like? Well, I'll post a photo of one species. I'll probably put in mottled umber. It's a pity we weren't looking for mottled umber, because that's a fairly easy female to find, as is scarce umber, because you're not restricted to one tree, and you can look on smooth bark trees, which makes finding anything sat on a smooth bark tree far easier than looking on one of these things. They can be anywhere on the trunk. Supposedly they're often at the base of the trunk, but depending on when they've hatched and if they've been mated, they could be anywhere from ground upwards. I can't go upwards. I can, but I can come down quicker. Now, a lot of these wingless female moths emerge in the morning. Some emerge in the afternoon or just before dusk. Winter moth females, if you go out with a torch at dusk, you can often find them rapidly ascending the trunks. But if that female has been out for a day or two, it can be anywhere on the trunk. I'm concentrating my searches anything to about sort of head height, and on some, around the base of some of the trunks is a good growth of moss, sometimes as high up as 2-3 feet. Now, if a female sat on there, it makes them quite easy to find. Fairly straightforward, no matter what the size is. But often female moths will tuck themselves under where a branch comes out under the limb of a branch, or they'll tuck themselves right into a crevice. They aren't the easiest things to find, but it's rewarding when you find one. Usually you'll see them illustrated in books, and I dare say many moth trappers have never seen any of the wingless females of the moths that fly late in the year or early in the year. The trees are getting bigger, and when they get like this, finding something on this bark less than an inch long takes some doing and requires a lot of luck. One time of day this used to be a really well trodden path. It was a path Dennis and I used to come down a lot when we used to park in a staff car park in good old days. Oh, a moth. But now it's virtually grown over. Looks as though it's barely used, or if it's used at all. And now, as you can see, we're into the realm of the ancients in this little bit. Swanket Road is just a few yards over to the left, so I'll have a look on these trees. Although the bark is more ridged, it is darker, so anything that's sat on there may well stand out a little bit. But it's hard to say how difficult these things are to find, and how do you know when you've got one, and what are you actually looking for? Well, you can see them from 4 or 5 foot distance, and what you're looking for just something that is just out of place on that bark in amongst all the ridges and furrows of the bark. Well, not the target species, but this is one of 2 cycad cases that's on here, and this is Taliporia tubulosa. Now, tubulosa is not common. It's quite a find within the confines of Sherwood Forest Country Park. It's more commonly found in beech woodland. Hanger Hill Plantation and Holborn Hill Plantations are the best sites in the county for it. And this one is a case from last year, of course. The larvae usually begin to ascend the trees after a life in the leaf litter, usually late April and into like the first week of May. This one didn't make it though. You'll see the hole at the end of the case where the case is attached, and that's because it was parasitized, and the parasite has emerged from that. The actual moth, if it had emerged, would have emerged out the bottom of the case. Now, just above it and just out of shot, I'll show you in a second, is another cycad. Because tucked away in the bark there, look, is the larval case of Nerissa duplicella, or duplicella, depending on how you want to pronounce it. The case is the thing that's obviously different to the bark, running at 8 o'clock to 2 o'clock angle. That will emerge, hopefully, if it's this year's case, and usually Nerissa duplicella cases become encrusted in lichens like that, even active cases, but the moth will emerge. It's an attractively marked little moth, black ground colour with numerous white small blotches and spots on it, and that is probably one of the commonest of the Cycaedae moths that you get, certainly within the country park, but they're not confined to the country park, and are one of the commonest in Nottinghamshire. So, 2 little Cycaedae, the quest for a female Geometriidae moth continues. I just found this. It's actually, despite it being 5 foot up a tree under bark. It is one of the ground beetles, and it's the Carabid Dromius quadrimaculatus. Obviously called quadrimaculatus because 4 spots on the elytra. It's a common species. You'll often turn this up if you're doing uplifting and prizing up of bark. It's always a nice species to find though. Well, no joy today, no female moths. Did find a little Tripodendron domesticum, which is a wood boring beetle, on one of the trunks, but it didn't want to play and flew off. Not fair, is it? But just one of those instances where you come out to find something and don't find it. There are other days, and plenty of days yet. But it often makes you wonder where all these pale brindled beauties and spring ushers, dotted borders and the like hang out during the daytime. I think they go deep into leaf litter or deep into dead bracken. You never ever see one on the trunk of a tree. Well, I haven't as yet, not during the daytime anyway. I've always had the theory that spring ushers go on the underside of branches higher up trees. Apparently I read the other day that they'll spend the day under loose bark. I've never seen it yet. I may do one day. So I think it's time to go home now, ready for a cup of tea. Might even have a glass of lager.